Hi, and welcome back to the Spirit Lounge. I hope you guys are doing well, and to the next installment of the Upanisads. And today we're going to be talking about the Kina Upanisad, and we'll go straight into that. Bring it up onto my screen so I can see it fully. Okay, the Kina Upanisad. So again, the Vedas, 700 to 400 BCE, created by ascetic sages, seers, those who went into silent contemplation and meditative practice and prayer and meditate and all those kind of practices of solitude, to understand what the divine is, to receive it themselves. And this is a collection of perceptions and understanding and knowing from all of those contributors. It isn't a religious text, it isn't based on any religion, and it also isn't based on any particular being, although it does talk about gods, which came out of Hinduism, of course, which was also a lot older. Okay, the Kina Upanishad, again, they all belong to a Veda of some kind. There are 4 Vedas, as we discussed before. There is the sorry, this is not playing ball with me today. The Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and the Atharva Veda. This one is the Kina, is attached to the Sama Veda. It has 4 sections in it. We don't go through sections, we do go through every passage. The first 2 in verse and the 2 in prose, so it deals with the Supreme Unqualified Brahman, which is the divine source itself, or the Brahma consciousness, the absolute principle being the divine. And the prose part deals with the Supreme as God. The worshipping soul gradually acquires the higher wisdom, which results in the consciousness of the identity of the Supreme. That's basically your internal self. The Supreme is, which is your divine light within. So all of them are very similar. They're building up. So if you notice, when we first started this, it was very much about associating things with parts of the atmosphere, parts of the body, the mouth, the lips, the legs, the hands, the cosmic bodies in the sky, the atmospheric winds, the fire, the earth, the material matter things. It was all a lot about associations with those, and gods and demigods and metaphors, lots and lots of metaphors. As we've moved through the Upanishads, and we're well over halfway through this, it's gone on to the more spiritual, esoteric aspects, truly talking about what the divine is, the more focus on it, which is actually what I've enjoyed the most, going past the first half. The first half was actually quite hard going to go through, because it didn't have the content that I thought, but it's starting to build up into that content now, so hopefully it continues in this vein. Okay, invocation. May my limbs grow. So this is invocating prayer, in other words. May my limbs grow vigorous, my speech, breath, eye, ear, as also my strength and all my senses. All is the Brahman. May I never discard Brahman. May the Brahman never discard me. Let those truths which are set forth in the Upanishads live me dedicated to the self. Om, peace, peace, peace. So this is like a prayer invocation before practice. And the next one is, who is the real agent in the individual? The agent being the spirit, in other words, of course. By whom willed and directed does the mind light on its objects? By whom commanded does life the first move? Whose will do people utter this speech? What God is it that prompts the eye and the ear? It's all talking about the internal spirit driving all things. Well, it's there to drive all things. Whether we connect to it and allow it to is really our choice. And it says, the comment made here in this chapter is, the real governs the phenomenal, which is true. The phenomenal being the multiplicity, the universe, the things we perceive. Okay, the all-conditioning yet inscrutable Brahman is the agent. Because it is that which is the ear of the ear, the mind of the mind, the speech of the speech, the breath of the breath, the eye of the eye, the wise, giving up, departing this world, become immortal. The wise being those who have attained knowledge and enlightenment and release of the divine universe and the divine from itself. Remember, everything, it was within us. We access all things through within us. It's not through an external source. It's through within, from within to without, remember, always. And a comment made here, a statement that I pulled out, there is the eternal reality behind the mind, life and the senses. The mind of the mind, the life of the life. Brahma is not an object subject to mind, speech and the senses. Absolutely. You cannot objectify or think your way or talk your way to the divine itself. It is a pure emotional feeling. It has to be felt. It has to be uncovered from within. The feeling is to come down into the heart space and the area here. And remember, I want to also say, coming into heart space doesn't mean that one is naive. One loves everything as one goes around. It doesn't really mean that. It means that we attach to, we allow knowing and we allow our egos to drop away, to understand that we're here relearning everything from the beginning. To know that we know nothing. To express love from each other, but in a very independent way, in an unattached manner. It doesn't mean have this soppy love about things. This is not what this means. This is having intended, independent, detached love for everything and practicing that against other people without judgment and attachment. But seeing what it really is, seeing life what it is, seeing this as the theatre and that what it is, and observing this life, but through the spirit, knowing that this is just a flicker in the infinite that we experience. There the eye goes. So another back to the keynote. There the eye goes not, speech goes not, nor the mind we know not. We understand not how. Absolutely. Statement I pulled out. Knowledge of a thing arises through the senses of the mind. Brahma is not reached by either of these. Hence the difficulty in explaining its nature to disciples. Yeah, it can't be really explained. You can try to explain the divine, but those who come from mind will never truly understand what you're trying to say, because it's not explainable. I've tried that many times with intellectually based friends of mine, very good, honest friends who are full of honesty and have a conscience and try to express life through their heart spaces. But they're intellectually based. Many of them omit the existence of the divine at all. So they're what I call the left, the matter being that those who wander in atheism and intellectualism and technology and science to prove things to them are true. But there are good people. They are good people. But trying to explain the divine to them is difficult because it cannot get past the intellectual mind, which is always trying to argue and explain it in a rational way, saying that it's all the creation of the mind, which is the usual response I get when I speak to intellectuals, which I actually don't bother anymore because it's pointless, a pointless exercise. I only speak to those who I can reach. Remember we talked about that in a previous video. Those who I can reach, those who you can reach, are those who are seeking and have engaged in that spiritual journey themselves. And back to the keynote. Other, indeed, it is it then the known, and also it is above the unknown. Thus we have heard from the ancients who have explained it to us. It is above the known and above the unknown, but it is not knowable. In Te Ching, Chinese philosophy, those who do not speak. Sorry, let me read that. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. It's often a true thing. You might find that in some spiritual egos. They talk a lot about everything that they know. The more someone suggests that they know everything, they are the answer, and they preach. Usually it's ideology behind the things that they say. And I've heard many of this kind. They don't actually know much about what they're talking about. Seek humility and confident assertion in the words of another if you're going to listen to them, and resonate them through your own heart space and your own spiritual self to see whether or not they are who they pertain to be and they know what it is that they speak. Discernment, in other words, is the one word for that. Okay, Ishvara is another comment. These two are comments came out, and again, these two chapters had a lot of commentary in them, rather than actual content from the Upanisad themselves, which was obviously very short. So it filled out a lot of the chapter, and a lot of it was really good. So I pulled it out. Ishvara, which is the supreme leader, supreme ruler, the absolute Ishvara. As the indwelling spirit and not, the Ishvara is as the indwelling spirit within, and not as an object who is external to us in what the real is, the real being, the internal, the inward power by which we live. But this inward experience of God is felt only by the advanced spirits. When it says advanced spirits, it's talking about those who seek, those who are ascending and moving towards greater things. That's what it means. Unreflective child mind seeks God who is above and not within. So that is saying those who follow religious dogma to its literal sense always seek the divine externally, always seek external saviors to come and save them from something, always look externally up, external to themselves for something when it's actually within. This is what it's saying about unreflective child mind. The power of Solomon, hear thou in heaven thy dwelling place. Or it could see thy heaven in dwelling place, cosmic bodies, contemplate non-terrestrial beings. People have been worshipping all things that came from the heavens. It could be cosmic bodies, it could also be other beings. Remember to open the mind to these things. Okay, and another comment, spirit cannot be objectified. Revelation of spirit is in the depths of one's life. Yes, bondage to the objective world, we look upon God as a great external force. That is true. Revealed only in spiritual life. You know, I'll comment on this. A friend of mine said, well, if God was real, why do bad things happen? You know, why is there famine? Why is there war? Why is there murder? Why do bad things happen on earth? Well, it's not the divine's. It's not the fault of the divine that things of duality occur in this universe, and we are in this universe. The duality exists, all pervades this universe. It's not just here. Everything that exists in this universe is the divine. Why is it the fault of the divine that we've created such an abhorrent and brutal duality where such imbalances exist? Well, it's because we seek God from external, not within. We sometimes don't seek God at all because we've removed it from our perception and omitted it in the place of science, technology, and other gods. And we haven't connected to our divine spirits and actions, word, thoughts, and intentions outwardly to those things. This creates duality. This is, we have attached, to the manifest, to the unreal. And this is what creates our duality. And this is a comment that people don't seem to understand when they make, and it's always the intellectuals who say these things to me, by the way. This is their reason to omit the existence of the divine is, well, bad things wouldn't happen if God existed. So it's up to us to fix the things that we create. We are accountable for those things, and there is no other saviour coming to save us. That already happened. We were given all that we needed from the avatars of the world. We just haven't implemented them as they were meant to be implemented. It's time that we did. Okay, bondage to the objective world, we look upon God as a great external force, revealed only in spirit. It's only revealed in spiritual life. Spirit is freedom. Life opposite of necessity, passivity and death. That which is not thought by mind, but by which they say the mind is thought. Exactly. Not thought by means not approached intellectually, but thought by mind through contemplation. That verily know thou is Brahman, and not what people here adore. That which is not seen by the eye, but by which the eyes are seen, see. That know thou is Brahman, and not what people here adore. That which is not heard by the ear, but by which the ears are heard, thou is Brahman, which is not breathed by life, which life breathes, thou is Brahman. This was actually a passage from a bit of philosophy which isn't part of this keynote Upanisads, but it was a really good passage, so I pulled it out, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. Okay, the paradox of inscrutability of Brahman. If you think that you have understood Brahman well, you know it but slightly. This is true, we'll never truly know. Remember, we can only know Brahman as far as we need to know to release ourselves from matter. In other words, this is what moksha is a release from rebirth. This is what autogenese from the Gnostic text is a release from birth, from matter. We only need to reach a certain state of understanding and knowledge and enlightenment to release ourselves from life. This doesn't mean that we know Brahman. This doesn't mean that we can know the Absolute. We can never know the Absolute when in form or in any expression within the theatre of expression of the unreal. It's only known when we enter it from pure spirit, when we're not in body. And even then, I don't know if we truly know the Absolute. But we only need to know it slightly. But if we say we understand Brahman, we don't. We will be on a continual becoming within body and without, and also without body. I do not think that I know it well, nor do I think that I do not know it. He who among us knows it, and he too does not know that he does not know. Very good statement. Goes round a little bit, but it's a good statement. Okay, these are following comments. It is neither that I know him not, nor is it that I know him, is also an admissible rendering. And Dionysius stated, there is that most divine knowledge of God which takes place through ignorance, in the union which is above intelligence. When the intellect, quitting all things that are, and then leaving itself also, is united to the superlucent rays, being illuminated thence and therein by the unsearchable depth of wisdom. This is absolutely, you move from ignorance, some move into intellect and intellectual approach to the divine. When we leave that alone also, then we unite ourselves with the divine. And this is what I was saying about dropping our ego and ceasing to think that we know what we think we know. When we truly open ourselves up, we'll be surprised how much will be revealed to us that contradicts that which we believe we know. And this is what this is saying, to open ourselves to superlucent rays, illuminated thence and therein by the unsearchable depth of wisdom. Wisdom is that which is revealed from us through the internal connection from the divine within. Okay, and a comment I pulled out from the passage, which is not part of the Kina, that Supreme is not an object of ordinary knowledge, but of intuitive realization. If we think that we know Brahman and we can describe him as an object perceived in nature or as the cause inferred from nature, we do not in reality know him. Absolutely. Do not avoid listening to those who speak from mind. You'll know who they are. If you resonate closely with them, you'll understand. Remember, discern that which you follow and learn. Don't believe everything. Internalize and contemplate all things, and allow the universe and ask the divine to show you and come to you. Okay, the value of the knowledge of Brahman. When it is known through every state of cognition, it is rightly known, for by such knowledge one attains life eternal. Through one's own self one gains power, and through wisdom one gains immortality. If here a person knows it, then there is truth. Here he knows it, not there is great loss. Seeking the real in all beings, wise men become immortal on departing this world. What this basically, when we keep saying wise men become immortal on departing the world, see this a lot in the Upanisads. This is the release from, this is the moksha, this is the autogenesis, release from reincarnation, in other words, the incarnation cycle. This is achieving that wisdom, knowledge, that enlightened state, that higher vibrational frequency of being from within to without, sufficient to no longer be bound into this incarnative cycle, which is a self-imposed binding. And a comment made here, the wise man sees the same Brahman in every creature. I like that, so I pulled that out. Only the allegory of the Vedic gods' ignorance of Brahman. Brahman, it is said, conquered once for all the gods, conquered once for the gods, and the gods glorified in that conquest of Brahman. They thought, ours indeed is this victory, and ours indeed is this greatness. The incomprehensible Supreme is higher than all gods, and is the source of victory for the gods and defeat for the demons. Brahman, as the Supreme Ishvara, vanquishes the enemies of the world and restores stability to it. Brahma indeed knew this. He appeared before them. They did not know what spirit it was. So, Forget the demigods, and these are artificial constructs humanity have created, and demons. These are real because we've manifested them to be real in both aspects. But when it's talking about the source of victory, and it appeared before them, this is talking about ourselves. This is referring to ourselves for me. We relate it to ourselves, not just a story of a passage in this book. We are to reveal the divine from within ourselves, to vanquish those enemies of our own ego, self, righteous, intellectual virtuousness, to become humble but assertive and confident in humility, which is what's needed. And from that, the divine appears from within us, to us, and then we know what it is. Okay, Brahma, the cosmic and the individual reality. Of this Brahman, there is this teaching. This is, as it were, like the lightning which flashes forth, or the winking of the eye. This teaching is concerning the gods. Now the teaching concerning the self, towards which the mind appears to move. By the same mind one remembers constantly. Violation also likewise. Brahman is the object of all desire, dearest of all to be meditated upon. Whoever knows this, he indeed overcoming sin, in the end, is firmly established in the supreme world of heaven. Yes, he is firmly established. So again, this is talking about the flashes of lightning, which is a sudden emergence of knowledge within. We get sudden emergence of knowledge. This is what we call flashes or lightning, or winking of an eye. And this is This is referring to revelation to ourselves. Revelation is an awakening of enlightenment, of knowledge, releasing itself from the internal the more and more we connect to it. And this happens in a flash. You'll be walking around not thinking of anything, and suddenly a divine piece of knowing will emerge into you. This happened a lot when I was writing my book. So I would write that book in complete contemplative position. It was almost not trance-like, but that's what I would do with music. But many times something would come that would be a point for me to write about, or something I needed to know that I wrote. And this is what enlightenment means. It's this flashing forth of a winking of an eye of knowledge. And then we remember. The mind constantly remembers as we carry on, but also violation of what we know is also remembered, of course. And we firmly establish ourselves. Establish ourselves, it means we establish ourselves in the vibrational frequencies we're trying to achieve, and remove ourselves from this matter realm. Okay, that's the end of the Akina Upanisad, and remember the second coming is you. Become what it is we seek while in body, to release yourself from body. Remember, it's a choice. If those who are associated and are attached to the material realm, so be it. There's no error in attaching oneself to matter. If this is what one wishes to be, if this is what one wishes to experience constantly because we like it, we're attached to it, we want to experience more and more of physical life and all its things, all its experiences, then there is nothing wrong in that decision. I personally do not. I experience life and progress through it for expansion, to release myself from material matter, because I find material matter a confinement, personally. So for me, my entire life journey is moksha, is autogenes, is to release, to establish myself. That's why I do everything that I do. It's also doing this for others helps me achieve that also. So make the choice whichever you wish to make. But remember, make it transformative. If you wish to be a matter being, then be that transformatively. If you wish to be a spiritual being, be that transformatively. But don't just dip into one thing here and there. In spirituality specifically, if you're going to do it, do it. Occasional dipping the toe in doesn't really do that much, and just praying when you want something doesn't achieve much at all. So make a choice. But if you're listening to this and watching this video, or in this channel, or any other spiritual esoteric passages you're traversing, it means that you're seeking a more expansive, enlightened, and this life, and hopefully fewer incarnations in the future. So I want to say thank you again. I'll just put this back on. Okay. So my last thing's going very slowly. Thank you for listening to this again, and I hope you enjoyed it. There's going to be a little bit of a pause until next week, so I'm going away on Thursday for a bit of a break, and when I come back I'll jump on to the next one. The next one is actually very long, so it will take a while to walk through that and pull out the parts that are interesting and informative for us to go through. So I say thanks again, enjoy yourselves, look after yourselves wherever you're doing, and I say God bless to you all till next time. Thank you.